Hey. Mayanga nifunza ni chani chinivuta kumtima. Atate yanga nifunza ni chani chinivuta kumtima. Moyo wanga wazula mona manda niyopa kukamba. Moyo wanga wazula mona manda niyopa kukamba. Nimbeko, 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 nimbeko. Nimbeko, 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 nimbeko. Nimbeko, 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 nimbeko. Tuwana tungondo tulibe manyumba tugona mumseo. Tuwana tungondo tulibe manyumba tugona mumseo. Tuwana tungondo tulibe maskulu tugona mumfolo. Tuwana tungondo tulibe makolo tugona mumfolo. Baribe vakuja, baribe manyumba, wazakula bwanji. Baribe manyumba, baribe vakuja, wazakula bwanji. Nimbeko, 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 nimbeko. Nimbeko, nimbeko, nimbeko. nimbeko, 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 nimbeko. Tukachimfya jani salamu chalo chiswifwe abano bwingi twalekelesha panse ngaba zangu kabachakolwa ngaba zangu kabapompwe bakazunga jani chalo chisu development iwamana abantu iwamina mu bantu Africa 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 Zambia 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 nimbeko 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 hey.
Welcome to the Tipende visual showcase. We are connected virtually because of the coronavirus pandemic. So the online platform is the only place we can gather so that we don't spread the virus. We are happy that you have joined us on Facebook. We are streaming live on the ACA Facebook page. And for those who don't have the idea of how this whole thing came about, some youths in Zambia were selected to train on evidence-based accountability and how they can make visual data and as a way of advocacy. We are joined here by our friends from Nigeria and our colleagues here in Zambia. And this program has been made possible by Hivos Alliance for Community Action, ACA, and Orodata Science from Nigeria. Be free to share whatever the live feedback on the ACA group, the ACA page, and so that you can follow the conversation. Right about now, and I'm going to call upon Andrew and Mr. Blaze to give us a bit introduction about the project and a bit insight of why we are gathered here. So, Mr. Banda Andrew, you can please give us a bit of the introduction about the project and why we are gathered.
Okay, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So I think Blaze will be able to join me just a bit later during the panel. So we are hoping to have a panel. First of all, I want to apologize for some of the technical glitches we might be having. This is the first time we're trying to do a virtual showcase, and we sort of have a lot of platforms which are running simultaneously. Tipende was, I think Tipende has been born out of the African Crossroad. So the African Crossroads is a conference, or I would say a community of different fields. You find people in entrepreneurship, social enterprising, civil society, infographics, data science. So Hivos brings together these different minds from across Africa together to share how they're using different platforms to bring about change in their own space. At this space, me and Blaze from Nigeria, we met, and then later on we were like, okay, we need to create something together, and then that's how we created the project Tipende. So Tipende means let's count, and our idea for Tipende was to train 20 young Zambians on how to use data visualization as a form of evidence-based accountability. So there's this thing where I think as many young people are speaking up, there's a need to also be talking from a factual basis, and I think that's where data visualization can help. So you'll find that young people want to engage with their leaders, but they do not have the evidence to back up what they are seeing in their community. And so we took together 20 young people to train them in the rights-based approach to social accountability, how ACA does their work. And then using the experts from Orodata, we also train them in visualization. So today we just want to showcase some of the work which the young people have done so that you can see the opportunities which lie in data visualization. You can also go to tipende.com to actually go and check out the visualization which the young people have made. As you see, they'll be able to talk about some of the visualizations which they made and what was the inspiration behind it. So I hope you enjoy today, and I hope to get a lot of feedback and a lot of partnership to take this forward and to compile as many as possible to educate our peers and to also spread information about social accountability. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew, for that insight. So, as Andrew has mentioned, there are some youths who are trained on evidence-based accountability using visuals and fact-checking of taking accountability in the way we do our advocacy. And from the many youths that were trained, 5 were selected to showcase their visuals, and right about now we are going to have these 5 trainees to present their output and what their visuals mean.
Dinamundi, are you ready to present your infographics since you are the
Yes,
the only person who is logged in? The people are presenting.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so
Andrew,
you can.
Are you going to showcase the info? Are you going to show it on the screen?
Yes, I am. Let me just do that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you can start to tell us just a brief introduction of your infographic, and just a bit about what you are trying to achieve from your infographic.
Can I also just say that for those who won't be speaking, maybe we can put it on.
You can.
Andrew, can you try to zoom in a bit? Okay. You see the scores. Okay. Okay, so I can start. I have to introduce myself. Do I have to introduce myself?
Yes, you have to
Yes,
introduce
please.
yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think you should.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Namundi Claire Zulu, and I am going to talk about the Corruption Perceptions Index scores for Zambia, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana from 2012 to 2019, as we can see on the screen. So the CPI, the Corruption Perceptions Index. From the word perception, perception simply means one's understanding or one's judgment about something, one's understanding or judgment about something. And then an index is a listing, a guide or a list of things. So the Corruption Perceptions Index, from the definition, is simply the perception of experts on how corrupt a country's public sector is. I'll say that again. The Corruption Perceptions Index is simply the perception of experts on how corrupt a country's public sector is. So the CPI tries to see how corrupt a public sector is. It deals with the public sector, unlike the private sector. The CPI was adopted by Transparency International, and it is used by Transparency International. Transparency International is an international organization that deals with issues of transparency and accountability. For example, the most prominent issue of transparency and accountability that Transparency International deals with is corruption. And so the CPI is based on 10 to 13 different surveys. So before the CPI score is made, or before the experts come up with the CPI score, they undertake 10 to 13 different surveys. And from the number of surveys that are undertaken, we can see that the CPI score is credible enough. 10 to 13 is a very big number of surveys. The CPI score from the infographic uses a scale from 0 to 100. So 0 means very corrupt, 100 means very clean or free from corruption. The CPI scale uses a scale from 0 to 100. 0 means very corrupt, 100 means very clean or free from corruption. A perfect example I can give of such a score or of such a scale or score is in schools. Like when you go to school and you get 0%, it means that you have failed. And if you get 100, it means that you have passed. If you get 50, you get average. If you get below 50, that's below average. It's like a fail. So I chose this topic, corruption, because of the rampant cases of corruption in the country that go unpunished. The initial plan was to look at the CPI scores for Zambia only, but I was advised by Andrew, one of the mentors from SEA, to compare Zambia's CPI scores to 3 other countries in the SADC region. Thus, it gave the infographic more meaning, because infographics are all about giving your data meaning and not just coming up with any infographic. But what is your infographic trying to tell us? What is it trying to put across? So you can see that Zambia is in purple, Botswana is blue, Namibia is yellow, and South Africa is green. All the 4 countries are under the SADC region. And so the infographic here is trying to compare the CPI scores among these 4 countries. So we can see from 2012 up to 2019, that's the range, 2012 to 2019. So we can see that in 2012, okay, thank you, Andrew. In 2012, Botswana had a CPI score of 65, Namibia 48, South Africa 43, and Zambia 37. So we can see that Botswana was doing well in 2012. It was way above average, which is 65. And we can see that there was an amount of corruption, but the bigger amount was that of no corruption. 65 is above average, meaning that Botswana was doing very well in issues of corruption. And then Namibia, 48, we can see that that's way below average. South Africa, 43, and Zambia, 37. So among the 4 countries, Zambia was the worst because it had the lowest score. This shows that Zambia is corrupt to a larger extent because the CPI score is way, way below average. So this is a fail. When it comes to school-related issues, this is a fail. The same goes for the CPI score. The CPI score was 37 out of 100. You can imagine, out of 100. It shows that Zambia was corrupt to a greater extent. And from what we can see here, we can see that the government was doing little or less in terms of fighting or curbing corruption in the country. In 2013, this is a similar situation. 2013, Botswana had 64, Namibia 48, South Africa 42, and Zambia 38. So Botswana was still doing fine. Namibia was in the same range, South Africa the same range, and Zambia the same range. It only increased by 1. This also shows us that little was done to eradicate or curb corruption. We have 2014. 2014 is telling us that in 2014 we have Botswana at 63, Namibia 49, South Africa 44, and Zambia 38. So this is the same case. There's little or less improvement. It's either it's above by 1 or below by 1. So this shows the same case. Botswana was doing fine. Botswana has been doing fine from 2012 to 2015. We can see that maybe they're putting up measures to end corruption, or at least try to curb it, to minimize the levels of corruption. We can tell also in 2015, the scores are similar. 2016, the scores are similar. 2017, the scores are similar. 2018, the scores are still similar. In 2019, it's like the same. So for the case of Zambia, our range is in 30s. The case of Botswana, their rate is in 60s. The case of Namibia, their rate is in 40s and 50s. And then the case of South Africa, their rate is in 40s as well. So we can tell that Zambia, Botswana, Zambia, Namibia, and South Africa are way below average. And we can tell that Zambia is corrupt to a greater extent because of the scores that we've had from 2012 to 2019. So the question is, what is the Zambian government doing to try and curb corruption? What measures are being put in place? Are those measures being implemented or not? And from this, we have evidence to say our CPI scores are very low, which shows that we have greater cases of corruption in the country that are going free, like they're going scot-free. We can give a perfect example of the 48 houses. Up to now, we don't know the owner of those 48 houses. And yesterday, I saw a paper in Daily Nation, under Daily Nation, which says up to now, they don't know the owners. And so
So,
they,
Namund, you can summarize
I can
your project
summarize.
so that so that we
Okay,
can give chance to others. We've got
okay,
limited
I'll
time.
be done soon. So
Yeah, you
from
can
this
complete your
was,
thought.
okay. So from this, we can tell that Zambia is doing little or less to curb corruption. And from the scores that we have, we can easily seek for accountability because we have evidence to say our CPI scores are very low. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So next in line, we have Nelson Intongama. I don't know if Nelson is ready. Nelson?
Yes, I am ready.
Yeah, we are ready to hear your presentation. You can be as brief as
Okay,
possible. I
sure.
don't know if you can manage to present within 10 minutes so that we give chance to others to present also.
All right, sure. All right,
You can
so
start by introducing yourself. Yep.
all right, sure. So my name is Nelson Tongama. I'm a sustainable development practitioner. I'm a social justice advocate. I'm a climate justice campaigner. I'm a burning youth, and I'm also a youth activist. So my motivation behind the development of the maternal health census and statistics breeds from the fact that recently Zambia have been experiencing a lot of maternal health related complications, and then mostly both the urban and rural areas have been affected have been affected differently. So what this graph is showing, as you can see, I'll first start with Lusaka. What Lusaka is showing, you can see that in Lusaka is in green. The green part in Lusaka corresponds for the green part in Lusaka. You can see there is a family planning services. There are family planning services in Lusaka, and then it corresponds to very high here on top here. There's very high, intermediate, low, and very low. So the family planning services in Lusaka, most of the services that we have both from NGOs and government, they are very high. Their facilities are very high, and then they have got top professionals that exist in most of these facilities. And then if you compare that statistics to Copper Belt, for obvious reasons, because that's an economic zone, also the family planning services are very high. It's also true for Central Province and also for Southern Province. In Western Province, that's why you can see the red there. This rate has been made to be very bright to substantiate the claims that it's a danger zone. The family planning services in Western Province are very low. According to the survey that was carried out by the Zambia Demography Survey of 2018, it said Western Province and Northwestern provinces, the health facilities are there, but family planning services, the numbers that were given in the report were not very promising. When you talk about Muchinga Province too, the intermediate, largely because Muchinga province has been one of the provinces that have benefited from the massive development of health facilities that the government had embarked on. New health posts and a lot of upgrades to already existing structures have been upgraded. And then also Eastern Province. Eastern Province, there's quite a large number of NGOs. If you can remember, in 2018 and 2019, Eastern Province had the largest number of girls, of pregnant girls that were dropping out of school. So it has also been followed up with a lot of intensive work from NGOs that are doing everything possible to make sure that the Eastern Province is well covered. Luapula Province, they are not very low, but they are low. The family planning services, as you can see in this orange color. Also, Luapula province is one of the provinces that has benefited from the new infrastructure from the government. And then the second column, it talks about the knowledge on sexual reproductive health rights. Here you can see knowledge on SRHR, sexual reproductive health rights. So Lusaka, of course, for obvious reasons, has got the knowledge on sexual reproductive health is very high. So is Copper Belt. For Central Province, it's very low, despite people having access to family planning services. There are not so many NGOs and private citizens that carry out workshops, sensitization works in the communities that do sensitize most on reproductive health rights. The same case is also true for Western Province and Northwestern Province. For Muchinga and Eastern, it's intermediate because these have been experiencing an influx of NGOs that have been going there and a lot of private citizens. And then also in Luapula province, again, Luapula province, it's low because this is a province that is just getting more of a facelift in terms of government funding. And then also the economic activities that have been happening in Luapula have shown potential to help in growing in inviting NGOs and other citizens to be conducting their work there. And then safe abortion services. Safe abortion services in Lusaka, they are very low. That is in red and also on the Copper Belt. Most of the people, Lusaka actually, most of the people tend to shun away from safer abortion services. They would rather have them from home. And coincidentally, that's different when it comes to areas that are outside the economic, what I would call outside the line of rail. When we talk about the Copper Belt, Western Province, and then up to Muchinga Province, most of these, the safe abortion services, they seem to be intermediate. And then Luapula Province, again, safe abortion services are low. And the literacy levels from Lusaka up to Northern Province, the literacy levels are very high. Now, how to come up with this, it was compared with the number of schools and also the number of tertiary institutions that exist. So amongst these, it was noticed that Northern Province and Luapula Province also have got the lowest number of tertiary institutions. But starting from Eastern Province, Muchinga, Lusaka, Copper Belt, and Northern Provinces, they have got the larger number of tertiary institutions and also the number of high schools, and then also just the per capita population. Cannot be compared to Northern Province and Luapula Province. And then lastly, on the healthy diet. So now the most provinces have got the access to healthy diet is good, but having a healthy diet and having access are two different things. We notice that in Lusaka, it seems to be low, mostly because most of the Z generation mothers and most of the younger population that's coming up, they would prefer the modern foods for feeding their babies and themselves. Some would even prefer yogurt instead of using breast milk, and then that is not considered a healthy diet. And then in areas such as Luapula and northern provinces, this could be attributed to the number of healthy facilities and also the access to information on what diet women should embark. Mostly, it's usually the traditional foods that they do eat, and then this would have an effect on the growth of their children. So basically, this is it. This was my work on the heat map of access to maternal health related complications for all the 10 provinces of Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelson, for team. Um, before you leave, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Nelson.
Yes, I'm still on.
Yeah. We've been having a conventional way of sharing information, maybe by the publishing of bulk information in newspaper. So how do you think uh, presenting information via infographics is going to make information like in the years to come?
Would you just rephrase your question? You are cutting a bit.
Did you get my question?
Yes, rephrase your question.
I was saying there is this conventional way of sharing information by publishing articles. How the presentation through graphics is going to improve how media houses and organization communicate?
Oh, okay, okay. I think I did get that. I think most people do not have time to read most of these reports that are published by government institutions, government agencies, and then NGOs as well. So an infographic is more of a visual summary of whatever has been presented. Can you get me? Ahmed, can you get me?
Yeah, we can get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
So
get you clear.
so most of these reports that are released by government agencies and NGOs are not read by people. And then infographics, they present more of a visual summary of whatever is in that document. So if you give an example of this heat map, somebody just has to identify the colors and see which areas and which provinces are struggling with what, unlike reading the entire report. So I had to come up with this visual after reading about 30, 150 pages after going through different government institutions. And then that's a lot of work. And I do not think there'll be a lot of people that might have time to do that. But this sums up the work and then makes it simple for everyone to view the information for their own interpretation.
All right, Nelson, thank you very much for your presentation.
Trey, you're
I don't
welcome.
know if, yeah, I don't know if there's anyone with a question in the group.
Maybe just a comment. I actually was just from Nelson's comment. You can actually see which areas need attention by just looking at this. You can just see that Wapula is just low throughout. So I think infographics do help in that visualization. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew, for that comment. We're going to go to the next presentation by John Kachakwale. I don't know if John is ready. John, are you logged in?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, so let me just try attach my infographic.
Let me load up your infographic just now. All right, there we go.
Okay, I was almost loading mine. Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Okay, so my infographic focuses on sanitation sanitation facilities or types of sanitation that people use in
You may please
in
introduce
Zambia.
yourself so that the viewers can know you, please.
Okay, yeah, so my name is John Emmanuel Kachakwale, based in
Then you
Lusaka.
go ahead.
Yeah. Sure. So, like I stated earlier, my infographic focuses on sanitation facility type in Lusaka. So, when I was going through I think that is the 2018 Zambia Health Demographic Survey report, I stumbled upon this information, and one of the most sad things I think I noticed was that we practically don't have any province that is up to 100% in terms of having proper facilities. So when you look at my infographic, I think the first province there is Lusaka. So the blue, that blue or greenish color, that stands for improved sanitation facilities that we have in Lusaka as a whole. Then the yellowish color there, it signifies unimproved. So they are there, but they are not well well done. Then orange represents open defecation, so meaning people they don't have anything much, so a good or rather a chunk of people they use the bush or just some open spaces to defecate. Yeah, so for Lusaka, I think we can notice that we have a good number of sanitation facilities, and 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 improved. They are also reasonable. So coming to open defecation, it is very, very minimal, because at the end of, if at all we look close to that, we'll realize that it is below. Just realized that my camera was off. Yeah, we'll realize that it is below 10%, so which is kind of good. Then coming to Copper Belt. So Copper Belt is practically, I think, the second most populated province in Zambia. It is also doing good. It's not that far from Lusaka. So we see that the number of improved facilities, they are very, very high. Similar to Lusaka, they should be somewhere 70, that should be 78, 75, somewhere there, which is very, very good. Then coming to unimproved facilities, they're just there, they're just slightly above 20%. Then open defecation is also minimal, just like Lusaka. They should be almost at the same level, which is less than 5%, I think, if we can look at that. Then the second part, it's Southern Province. So Southern as well has a good number of improved facilities. However, if I told you have a close look, you realize that they are unimproved. They are very minimal, and the numbers of people who use the bush and open spaces for their to help themselves, it is very high. So that's almost 20%, if not more. I think that should be 20% or 18. Yeah, so that's for Southern Province. Moving on to Eastern. So Eastern, the number of improved facilities, they are very, very minimal. I think from the start to where we are now, we will realize that this is the first drop that we have. It is very low. Then coming to unimproved facilities, there are quite a number. I think there are more than improved facilities. Yeah, then coming to open defecation, we realize that it is performing a bit better than Southern Province in spite of not having enough improved facilities. Yeah, then for Northwestern, yeah, so Northwestern performs better than Eastern Province. When we look at our lines there, our graph, I think we can be able to tell that it's doing far much better. Then when it comes to unimproved facilities, they're almost at the same level. So the difference is very, very minimal. They all fall below 50%, but we can say that they're above 45%. So they're just close to 50. And I don't know if it's because of the balance, but I think we can tell there's a bit of a balance in terms of the facilities that these people have in this province. So open defecation, it is also low. If you're going to compare it to Southern and Eastern Province, it is low in spite of having an average percentage of improved and unimproved facilities. Then for Western Province, so Western Province, it is one of the most sad sites, I think you can tell from the graph, because it is the lowest. So when it comes to improved facilities, they fall below 10%. So the whole province, improved facilities, they're below 10%, and unimproved, they're a bit fair. They're up there, which should be above, this is above 30, close to 40, somewhere there. But open defecation, it is massive. It is super, super high there. It should be the highest in the entire country, because it is there almost hitting 50 plus. Yeah. Then for Northern Province, so Northern Province comes in, it is performing better as well. I think if we are going to start from the bottom, we realize that open defecation is very, very low. almost the same as Lusaka and Copperbelt. Yeah, though the numbers of improved facilities, they are less compared to Lusaka and the Copperbelt, and coming to the number of unimproved facilities, they're more compared to Lusaka, Copperbelt, and Southern Province. I think that includes for Eastern as well. So they are performing a bit better, especially that they don't have much compared to Lusaka and Copperbelt, but they're able to have such low levels of open defecation. Then the other part that we have, it's Luapula Province. So Luapula is performing better than Western Province. It's also performing better than Southern Province. So we see their percentage there being something above 40, just between 40 and 50% in terms of improved facilities. And the margin between the improved and unimproved, it is very minimal. They are almost at the same level as well, ranging between 40 and 50%. Then open defecation, it is very low. It is below 10%. It's just down there. So it is performing far much better compared to Southern, Eastern, and Western Province. Then the second last province that we have there is Muchinga. So the number of improved facilities in Muchinga, they are better compared to Luapula Province. They are ranging between, this should be between 50 and 60%. Yeah, then the number of unimproved facilities, they are ranging between 40 and 50%, which is kind of average in our case here. Then open defecation, it is a bit fair, almost similar to Luapula Province, but better because it's also performing below 10%. Then the last but not the least, that's Central Province. So for Central, we realized that the number of improved facilities in the province, they are minimal as well. They are below 40%. Then the number of unimproved facilities, they are just up there between 50 and 60%. Then the cases of open defecation, they are also below 10%. Yeah, so what intrigued me to pick this topic, at first I think it was just my interest to realize the sanitation facilities and what people use in our country, because I think we all know Zambia is over 50 years, and of late we've been very excited because we have seen a number of developmental projects, especially in Lusaka. Most of them are roads, but at the end of the day, I think I look at to a larger extent, are people having better lives because of good roads and nice buildings being erected in Lusaka or not? But when you look at this infographic, I think you can tell that in spite of all the developmental projects that Zambia has faced in the past 5 years, I think one of the most important issue, which is sanitation, it is not fully attended to. I think the cases are still bad, especially for Western Province, which is a very sad sight if you're going to look at it. So if somebody or if the government, I think, would get this infographic, or any organization, I think they would tell based on your type of work. I think if I would be allowed to sample out one organization like WaterAid, they deal with sanitation and things to do with water. I think this can really help them to say that, okay, I think Western Province really needs their help compared to Lusaka. Southern Province needs more of their help compared to Muchinga, and things like that. Do I have any question?
Any question, please? If you've got a question, comment, we can go ahead and ask the presenter. Okay, I think okay, Nelson, you can go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to find out what was your, where were you, what parameters were you using when drawing the graphs, maybe say to come up with percentages, and what were you using? For my case, for example, I was using per capita, the number of people, the number of facilities divided by the population. But for you to come up with the way the graph in percentages and what exactly we're using? Because
Okay, so
I've
I
seen
think,
that the source of information, Zambia demographics, it's the same as mine as well.
yeah. So I think here now comes another issue that that we are facing in terms of having open data or open source of information. So if you look at the report that we have, or rather the Zambia Demographic Health Survey, you realize that most of this information is mixed up. They have a number of things. However, this report was based on the number of facilities that were visited, and or let me say it was basically sampled, because it is not a total of every province, but majority of the facilities and the system that these provinces are facing. So I think the graphic would have been more better, or the information would have been wholly accurate, if at all we had solid information which was provided, which should have been provided in CSV, yeah, of which I feel that would have helped me a lot, because at the end of the day, I had to type this information after looking at the report. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Thanks much, John, for your presentation. Okay, Beatrice, are you ready? You can come in as Ida is sorting out the sound problem.
All right, sure. Thank you so much, Ahmed, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, my name is Beatrice Caroline Piri, and I'm a youth activist, climate change activist, as well as um, governance youth activist. And so basically, my infographic looks at the the employment levels rather, in Zambia. And also, I was really inspired by the fact that I actually got to find out that we actually have more women that are actually employed in Zambia as compared to men. But also, the other thing that actually inspired me to take up this infographic is the fact that we still have a lot of unemployment levels in Zambia. And so if we look at, I'll start with, that's the total percentage employed per province. So I'm going to start with Central Province. If you look at Central Province, we have 9.40%. That is like the total number of people that are actually employed, and which is like very, very, very low. And so it shows that there is really a lot of improvement that needs to be done in terms of providing jobs for young people, as well as providing jobs for both male and female. And if we look at Western Province, also the numbers are not pleasing. We get to see that only 5.65% are actually employed in Western Province, which is very also unrealistic. This also says a lot about what we're actually doing with the graduates that actually get to come in, year out. And if we look at Southern Province, we have 11.3%. I think that Southern Province is among those that have a better numbers, or at least they actually have better numbers. It's not pleasing as well. It's at 11.43%, and this is so bad, and it's terrible. It also shows that there is really a lot that Zambia has to do in terms of ensuring that we create employment for both young people, that's for both female and male. Western Province, not Western Province, rather, we have 4.99%, which is almost like 5%. And also we can tell that these unemployment levels are really unpleasing, and there's also a lot that has to be done. And in Northern Province, we have 7.65% also, and it shows also that there's a lot of improvement that has to be done. Muchinga, extremely not pleasing. We have 5.70%, which also tells us that there's really a lot of improvements that actually have to be done. And in the capital city, Lusaka, we get to see that at least in Lusaka, we have about 20.41% of people that are actually employed. And these are both female and male. And also, in as much as we have this percentage that looks to be a lot, it also tells us that we really need to create more jobs, but also get to us is to tell our institutions that they need to also get to support small scale businesses to provide jobs in these areas. Then in Luapula province, we have 7.06%. These are numbers, of course, that are not pleasing, and they actually show that there is really a whole lot that we get to do. And for Eastern Province, we've got 11.08%, which is actually almost close to Southern Province if we actually get to see. But even though these provinces have almost the same numbers, it shows that they also have different challenges that they get to face, and also there's a lot that has to be done. And Copper Belt Province, which is actually second from Lusaka, we get to see that it has
Sorry,
16.6.
Beatrice, you can share your screen if possible, so that people can
No,
follow
have
the
it
program.
on a video.
You can switch on your video.
Okay, so unfortunately, you guys won't be able to see me because there's load shading, and so I'm in the dark. So my video is
Okay,
on
then
right now,
you
but
can
it's
go ahead.
completely dark.
Okay, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. So like I was saying, for Copper Belt, we actually have 16.63%, which is second from Lusaka. And it shows also that there is really a lot. And if Copper Belt has 16.63%, and these are areas that actually have the mines and so on, it also tells us a story that there's really much of improvement, and there's really a lot of support that government and other partnering institutions have to do in order to provide employment to these areas. And down there, I was actually comparing, like I said, that I was actually inspired by the fact that I found out that we actually, in 2019, because this is the Zambia Labor Force Survey Report of 2019, I was impressed to find out that we actually have a lot of women that are actually employed as compared to men. And this also shows that over the years that we've actually been fighting for women's spaces, we're actually getting to us is we're actually getting somewhere. And I don't know how many organizations also that get to fight for gender equality are seeing these numbers and they're seeing these improvements. And so these are stories that we actually need to be telling right now when we are fighting for women's spaces, that employment levels for women are also increasing. So for Central Province, we can see that for Central Province, male workers about 45%, and then for female workers, they're about 46%. So we can see that there is a really a good improvement. And for the Copper Belt, we get to see that it has 44% and 50 and sorry and 48% for the female, also getting to tell us that it's really improving. And the story is also not different from Eastern Province. We can see that it has about 43% for male, and then we have about 58% for female, which is a great improvement. And for Luapula, we can actually see that we have about 43 rather percent, and 50 and sorry, and 48% as well for the male. And in Lusaka, of course, the capital city, we actually get to see that Actually, the numbers actually even lower for the male. We actually get to see that the male are around 43% or 42%, and then for the female, they actually at about 49%. And in Chinga province, we actually get to see almost the same numbers with 44% for male, and then with 48% for female. And in Northern Province, we actually get to see that 44% as well for male, and 48% for female. And in Southern Province as well, we have the same numbers, which is 44% for male and 48% for female. And in Western Province, the same as well. So these are just the same for Western, for Northern, and almost other provinces. So these are stories that we actually need to get to tell. Like if we're fighting for gender equality, we also need to tell, if we're fighting for gender equality and fighting for women's spaces, we actually need to tell stories like this, that Zambia is actually improving in terms of providing employment for female, despite the many obstacles that we are actually facing in creating more spaces for both male and female, and actually encourage that many people that are actually going to actually get to see this infographic get to actually be inspired to create a 50-50, employment, where we get to see that as much as we are providing employment for male, we should also be providing employment for female. So those are some of the things that we can actually get to encourage, and also encourage every person, if you're able to provide employment, please do so that the employment levels can continue to grow, so that we continue to grow the economic growth of this country. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Beatrice, for the presentation. Do we have any comments or questions? Nelson, you can go ahead.
Hi, Beatrice.
Hi, Nelson.
Okay, I love your presentation. It's really nice. I just have a few questions concerning the numbers that you have given. Are these percentages according to those that are in formal employment or in informal employment? And I also would like to find out if you think the reason why we would have lower employment levels of women in areas like Luapula and Western could be because of literacy levels, and maybe somewhere overlooked someone in agriculture and all that. So I would really want you to highlight on those two.
Okay, so thank you so much, Nelson, for that great question. So my infographic basically is giving like an overall view of the employment levels in Zambia, whether formal or informal. So it's just giving that overall percentage. And also, I think that I wouldn't really say that the reasons why most are not employed at this point in time is because of the illiteracy levels. And also, this is also, I think I would also love to also attribute to what John had earlier said, to say that there's not much of CSV data, and it's really hard to really get to see like what's really causing all those issues. And so when you have information in CSV, it's actually easy for you to tell. Like I think it would have even been more easy for me to tell like whether these people are just in formal employment, or whether they are actually in just informal employment. So as of now, I wouldn't really say whether illiteracy levels are a cause to the unemployment levels in Zambia. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, yes, we're good.
All right, thank you so much.
Anyone with a question, comment?
Maybe just a comment.
Yeah.
Something which I think would have been nice to see as well. It's good that we have a lot of, we are achieving a gender balance in Zambia, but it's also it would have been good to, if the Zambia Labor Survey Force would also include the type of work which women get to possess, because we could be celebrating this, but maybe the majority of the jobs women are having are in places where they cannot influence anything. They're in, like, you know, they're not in management. They're not in the boardrooms. So it would have been nice to it would be nice for the Zambia Labor Force Survey Report 2020 to also include such information, I think.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that comment. If does anyone have a comment, a question, you can raise up your hand so that we can hear what you have to say. Okay, it seems we no longer have questions. So we've come to the end of this the Tipende visual showcase. Thank you for joining us. This is just a sample of what was learned amongst the youths that participated in the evidence-based accountability, where they were taught on how to create infographics and visuals in accountability. So if you want to see more infographics and visuals, you can visit tipende.com, so that you can see the visuals for yourself, and self-explaining, and you can have a lot of insight and knowledge on accountability. Okay, welcome to the Tipende video showcase discussion. We are going to discuss issues around evidence-based accountability, using data visualization and as a new way of advocacy. So we've got a number of youths on the panel, and before we start, I would like the people on the panel to introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Andrew.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew. I work for the Alliance for Community Action as the Digital Media and IT Officer. And on the Tipende project, I was one of the project leads.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Nelson, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Nelson Tongama. I'm a sustainable development practitioner. I'm a social justice campaigner. I'm a climate justice advocate. I'm a burning youth, and I'm a youth activist. I was one of the participants that were trained in the Tipende project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelson. Next person in line, please. You can introduce yourself.
How do we know who is next? Because here it's showing me that you are the next person.
Okay, John.
Chanda or Kachakwale?
Kachakwale, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is John Emmanuel Kachakwale. I'm a youth activist and an environmental activist as well. I'm one of the trainees.
Okay, thank you very much. Ida.
Hi everyone, my name is Ida Serasian. I identify as a youth advocate and a social justice campaigner.
Thank you very much. Tabitha.
And I'm one of the trainees.
Hi everyone. So my sincere apologies. I won't be able to participate with my video on. I think I've already passed that message to the moderator. I'm literally in the dark right now. But my name is Tabitha Lilongwe, and I'm a content creator, and I'm also one of the participants of the Tipende training.
Thank you very much. So the um, Tipende evidence-based advocacy using visualization had attracted a number of views from Lusaka, and we had the showcase in the previous video we shared on Facebook. So our participants, I would like you to explain a bit how infographics and evidence-based accountability and its importance to advocacy. So I will direct that question to Nelson Intongama.
Okay.
Nelson.
Yes, thank you so much. So we're trying to look at a generation that is focusing on digital technology. We're trying to look at a generation that is so much glued to social media, and then we are also trying to look at a generation that social media has become the new newspaper. Social media has become the new source of authentic information for some people. So if we use infographics to display information, we're literally trying to capture that generation of young people that is on social media to get as a source of their information. And then we'll be taking advantage of a very large population that we can see and that we cannot see, to display content, and then also to display to easily express information. I have not heard of so many people or young people that go through most of these reports, like the FIC report, the Auditor General's report. Most of us react based on the readings of others. Most of us react based on what other people have read and what other people have analyzed. But if we're going to be having that kind of the reports be expressed in infographics, I think most of us are going to be interpreting that information in a very very analytical way, because the infographic itself will be telling us what, like for example, the one I saw with Beatrice, the figures and the way the pyramid was created can show us by the size of Lusaka that we have got more females that are employed. You do not need to look at the other numbers. You can easily tell the size of Lusaka shows you that Lusaka has got more females that are employed. And then even going forward, we'll be having it easier to express information in such a way for easier communication for those of us and those of our friends that cannot easily, that do not have time to read all these reports.
And Tabitha, you are a content producer for Open Parliament Zambia, which is a youth-based media, and I'm sure you are familiar with the use of infographics in the dissemination of your information. How do you think this training has benefited you?
Thank you, Silas. So when you look at, I think in agreement with what Nelson has already mentioned, our generation, living in an information age, our generation doesn't pay much attention in reading news articles, very long articles. So they would prefer having data that is already analyzed, and that's very easy for them to catch. So working as a content creator on Open Palized, I think the Tipende media, the Tipende training has helped to add more knowledge. The knowledge that I had was mostly on doing posters, but the graphics that we did under the Tipende training really gives us an evidence-based approach towards social accountability. And so this also helps create more engagement online, because mostly if we working on Open Palizade, when we write articles, those ones don't get much as much attention as infographics do. So working on infographics, for example, infographics that are in line with the FIC reports, if we break down the FIC reports in a form of an infographic or a map and whatnot, so I get a lot of engagement in those areas as compared to just posting articles. And so I think
Thank you very much, Tabitha. And Ida, you are a graduate in mass communication. And how do you think this new way of information dissemination will benefit media houses and organizations like the Organization for Accountability?
Okay. So just a correction, I'm not a mass comm graduate, but I'm from the education sector. Yes, I'm an adult educator by profession. So maybe you can rephrase your question.
Correct. You can go ahead.
But even so, I feel like what we've learned from this training will actually benefit not only media houses, but the entire society in the sense that you see, these infographics are easy to share online. So the fact that someone has already mentioned that our generation really engages more with pictures than text itself, it's easier for us to communicate a message with a bigger audience than when we put it in writing, as it has always been. But with the use of infographics, not only do media houses benefit in having a large audience, but we also get to educate more people out there. So in my field as an educator, these infographics actually get to work as generative themes, which are able to stir up conversations among people. So when these conversations are stirred up among people, they'll be able to generate solutions for their own problems. So let's say, for example, we know that this is how much money has been wasted in the previous year. Like, for example, coming from the um, Auditor General's report, people will be able to speak out, demand that these people that were appropriating our funds are brought to book and the like. So not only do media houses benefit, but the society at large too. Yes.
O- Okay, John.
Yeah, okay. I think just to ride on what Nelson and Ida have stated, I feel for me, infographics, they are the future of disseminating information to the publics. And like we said, we live in a generation where young people don't really have the time to go through books or reports in order to get the information that's needed. And again, we have a lot of young people who want to speak out. So if we've got these two issues where we have the information which is given to us in bulks, and we have the young people who have the airtime and the energy, the time to speak out, and they don't have time to go through the books. If we are going to be giving them these infographics, I feel they are really, really going to help, because at the end of the day, we can all agree that infographics, they simplify the work for us and for everyone. Yeah, then besides that, I think we can all attest that infographics, they easily get people's attention, just like memes. I think nowadays, just make a meme and post it out there, a lot of people are going to share it. A lot of people are going to be attracted to it based on the images or pictures that you have used. And that's the same thing with infographics. So at the end of the day, we are not just giving out information in a dry way, but in the most creative way that gets people's attention. So I feel, coming from a background where I'm doing communication studies, and I think for me, communication for development has always been something that I'm passionate about. I think if more organization can really pay mind to infographics and see if young people can be trained in how to make this, if each and every organization can be able to release some information, some reports in form of infographics, I'm very certain that they are going to help us as a society and as the civil society organization as well.
So we are going towards the polls next year. So how do you think the use of infographics will help to disseminate information amongst voters?
Okay, I can go first on on this one. Well, I think first and foremost, if we are going to talk about informing and educating the voters, I feel like right now the best thing that we can do is go through the past. I think give the people the information of what happened. I think we've got the whole issues of voter apathy. I think this is something that we don't really appreciate as a society, or we don't know how serious it is, because the only thing that has the percentages, it's a thick report that no young person is going to sit and go through it. So at the end of the day, if we can produce the percentages of voter apathy, that would really help us. And coming to the issues of violence as well, we all know that a good number of young people were hurt during the previous general elections. So why can't we have infographics showing that, okay, guys, these are the numbers of young people who got hurt? And at the end of the day, I feel none of the young people would want to be part of the statistics that show that, okay, there was violence during the general elections. So for infographics, I feel the Electoral Commission of Zambia, they can really help us, and especially when it comes to the issues of corruption or people being bribed, ABCD. These people should have the information that shows that, okay, this is the number of cases we had. This is the number of the good things that happened, and the issues of the number of ballots that get to be thrown away. Every election is also sad. So at the end of the day, I feel creating infos and just sending them out there and make sure that the young people are able to understand them since they are easy. And being that they deal mostly with numbers and less of words, I feel it's even better, because at the end of the day, I think every person knows how to spell Lusaka. Every person knows how to read Lusaka. Okay, not all, but majority, I think that should be the right term. So if you can just say Lusaka and you put the numbers, a person who is going to read that, they are going to understand that, okay, if Lusaka has this big number in red, obviously this means something bad. If Copperbelt has this number in green, obviously it means something positive. So at the end of the day, I feel just by the use of colors, the use of numbers, we are able to communicate to a lot of people without putting in a lot of words. And I feel
You can
we
hold
live
your
in a
thought, John. Ida's got a question.
okay.
Ida, you can come in.
It's not really a question. It's just an addition. So maybe he can finish, then I can come.
Okay, John, you can go ahead with your thought. Ida will come in later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I feel we live in a society where we all understand numbers. I think from the time when we were young, one of the first things that we were taught it is to count 1 to 10. So if we are going to use numbers and colors to send out information to the people, we are going to reach out to a lot of people, because at the end of the day, not every person is learned. But with an infographic, I think no matter how low your education levels are, you should be able to grasp the concept and the information of the infographic at any point. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Ida, you can come in with your thought.
Okay. I want to contribute on what Emmanuel said about voter apathy in terms of infographics. Um, I'm of the view that we can use infographics to educate the masses. Voter apathy affects whether you attended, because in a situation where few people vote, in a situation where few people get to go into the booth to vote, the others that remain home seated or doing other things in the name of being busy or their votes not being important, they get to suffer the consequences of bad, because mostly where there's a lot of voter apathy, you find that the people that are voting most are those people that are so vocal. And most of the times, the people that are so vocal are just voting based on the pockets. Maybe their pockets were filled in a certain way, and so they are voting because of that. They're not really being objective in the way they vote. So where we have voter apathy, we get to have everyone else getting affected by the fact that bad leaders were put in office. But where we have everyone attending the polls, they get to make a decision that is well thought, especially where we explain to people why they need to vote and how they need to analyze these issues when they're going to vote. They need to analyze their leaders and everything. So if we put it in infographics, we'll be able to send out a loud message to a lot of people so that they know that whether they vote or not, they'll be affected if they don't make a right choice. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ida, for that thought. I believe that when you're dealing with, yes, Tabitha,
Just yes, just in
right,
addition to what Ida and Emmanuel
right,
John have.
under a minute,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, you,
Yes, it will be. So I think we can use infographics in relation to next year's elections in terms of maybe trying to reduce voter apathy and also trying to teach the voters on how to vote. If you look at the previous elections, I think you can also check the ECZ website. The number of rejected ballots. At times, you have maybe 20% of the ballots might have been rejected because the people that were voting didn't know where to, is it to tick or whether to use an X or how they are supposed to cast their ballots. So I think we can also use that on voter education in terms of trying to reduce voter apathy and also the number of rejected ballots.
all right, thank you very much. I think as we are dealing with accountability and evidence-based infographics, we make the information that is being published out there is truthful information. And as we go into the next segment, we talk about Zamstats and how they publish their data. So this time I'm going to call in Mr. Andrew Banda, who is going to tell us a bit about Zamstats and, as we move on with the discussion. Mr. Banda.
All right. Thank you very much, Silas, for that. And I just wanted to commend all the good, I think, the good analysis on infographics which have come through. When we come to Zamstats, so Zamstats is Zambia Statistics Agency, if I'm not mistaken. So these are the guys who are in charge of collecting different statistics in Zambia, which can be used by policymakers to derive a policy direction. So they do a lot of work, and I was actually on their website when I was reading one of their reports. But I think the biggest challenge that there is with Zamstats is the way they publish their data. So when you go on the Zamstats website, you find their reports and you find their data access. But when you go to their data access, actually they show you their different visualization, but they do not give you access to that data. You cannot download it onto your computer so that you can use it in any way. So when we are talking about open source and how we want Zamstats to be producing, to allow citizens to get this data and visualize this data, we're talking about Zamstats starting to produce publish rather. So they can continue publishing their PDF and reports, that's fine. But they need to be able to give citizens the ability to have that data as well in raw data, what we call raw data. So they can publish that raw data in open source formats like CSV, or they can publish it in Excel. A lot of people have Excel as spreadsheet softwares on their computers. And what that will allow, it will allow virtualizers to work faster, to visualize the data easier. Because what happens is when Zamstat has this data in PDF, and if you want to visualize any of the data, one, the data is incomplete because you're working from what Zamstats decided to show based on the data set which they have. So they might leave out some small data which you would have used or you would have found a way to use, but because they're the ones virtualizing it, they may leave out that data. And then two, it makes the work of the virtualizer much, much harder because he or she has to start copying and pasting and creating a whole new spreadsheet to work with that data. So this, I think on top of the good work which Zamstat is doing, they need to be able to give citizens this data. I think denying this data to citizens is a rights violation, and it's a form of oppression because you are essentially trying to hide data in some way, which is supposed to be free so that all citizens can access. Citizens can showcase it in whichever way they choose. So it shouldn't be up to Zamstat the way citizens decide to show the data. The Zamstat just has to give the data to citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that insight. Nelson.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you did infographics, and we had put a lot of data there. How difficult was it for you to source that data?
Wow, you wouldn't want to know. It was very difficult. If you noticed, what led me to get that data firstly was Zambia demographic survey. So I had to look at the places where they sourced that data and follow those places. And one of them was the Central Statistical Office. Another one was the University Teaching Hospital Virology Lab. Another one was also the Ministry of Health. Now, just trying to get information either from office staff, from whatever has been printed before, just from anywhere, just to get this information, it's not readily available. And even if you ask, they need to question your intentions, what do you want to do with it, and then they have they have a perception you might want to use it against them and all that because some of the information that the public know that they are doing is not actually what's on the ground. So for me, when getting that information, I realized one thing that sometimes an infographic will be only be produced according to how much information you have available, and then the same infographic with same information can change depending on the depth of information that has been given. Because I kept on revising my work in and out. I do this. Why? Because I kept on getting new information, new data, and the new statistics on different things. And then if we could have that data made available to the public, made available in one source, made available in an open way, I do not think I would have to go through all that trouble going office by office. If I always had to visit the Central Statistics Office, that's why they are called central. If they are not, if they do not have central information, they shouldn't be called central in the first place. If if I had to go through the Ministry of Health to access information that I can get from the Central Statistic Office and from the University Teaching Hospital Virology Lab, it actually means that there's no open source information. And then this is where the Zambia Statistical Agency has to come in and work in cohesion with most of these bodies because this information is meant for the public. Unless if they're carrying out a report or it's confidential information, which they should also indicate to the public. But as long as information on our health, on our elections, on our social accountability, on our economics, on our agriculture, as long as it affects the public, it has to be made available. And then in my case, it was really a journey and a half.
All right. Thank you for sharing your experience. Tabitha, you you are a content producer for Open Parliament, and how do you think open source formats will advantage you as an information disseminator? Hello, Tabitha, are you logged in?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to switch on my mic. Okay, yeah. So being an online content creator and basing mostly of our advocacy online, I think having open source data will help us create infographics that are evidence based. When we have numbers that are correct numbers and number figures that are confirmed, will help us have just like I said, have evidence-based infographics, and that will help us improve engagement and civic engagement online with citizens as well as other civil society actors that will try to involve as we do our online campaigns.
All right, thank you very much. John.
Well, I personally I think the development of our country is wholly rooted in information. And coming to the issues of having infographics with concrete, or let me say accurate numbers, I think it's going to help people who are advocating have evidence-based advocacy. Because I feel right now we can all agree that a good number of advocates and activists, they tell us a lot of stories. They say, okay, there's deforestation. But the question is like, okay, what is the extent of it? Tell us the numbers. They won't tell you anything. They'll say, oh no, there's poor waste management in Lusaka. How many kgs of waste are collected? How many are left? Nobody knows. And this is the information that people ought to have. So at the end of the day, I feel the more we've got open source information, the better activism is going to be. And if we are going to hold people in office accountable, we need to compare it to something. So I think I can give an example. As of, I think that should be 2016, 2018, about 25 million kgs of waste was not attended to country, I mean, in Lusaka, just in Lusaka, on a monthly basis. So if right now we are going to say that the situation has improved, we need the numbers as well. So what are we going to compare it? Because at the end of the day, I feel the more information we have, the more numbers we have, the more understanding we have on the ground. Because at the end of the day, we just can't be saying that we have issues when we don't have numbers. We can't be saying we are working when we don't have numbers. And these numbers ought to be accurate, not just fake numbers where you just sit, you write some stuffs. No, the way we collect our data, I think if infographics are going to be very useful to us, the collection of the data, the processing of the data, and how the data is given out should be well done, because at the end of the day, we need this information to be precise, failure to which it will be a big issue. So I feel in terms of development, the development of our country, it's rooted in how the information is going to be shared amongst the citizens.
Thank you very much for your thought. Ida. Ida.
Yes, Ahmed.
Yeah, so as we commend the work that Zamstat is doing, like in a democratic society, we really need information flow to be so plain and quite easily accessible to the citizens. So how do you commend Zamsters to improve in the way they publish their information or their data? What are your
Okay, so um, first of all, I think they're doing a very good job in making sure that information is readily available on their website. However, we continue to plead with them to give us information in its raw form so that our work is easier. It's easy for us to use that information on any software if it's in raw form, unlike when it's in PDF where we have to transfer the work, we have to type it in Excel and the likes. It's time consuming for us to do that. So if they can be able to give us that information in CSV, we are going to actually be able to produce more output for our work to be made easier.
Okay, thank you very much. As we wrap up, I would like to connect Mr. Andrew Banda to just share his last thoughts over this discussion. Mr. Andrew, you can come in.
All right. I think I just wanted to touch on something which Emmanuel said just quickly, I think. It's actually based on IDA's infographic on how infographics can be used for evidence-based accountability. So there was a few, I don't know when the president said that you employ how many people? Did you say you employ 1 million, I think?
Yes.
1 million people.
Yeah, but
No, no,
you know,
no.
like some of these things can tell you that you know that's such data can come in handy um, to contrast, because they'll eventually, sometimes they'll just eventually come back and just say, we reached 1 million, but how can we tell if they did reach 1 million? So I think infographics like this can come in quite handy when you're talking about evidence-based accountability. Then coming back, I think my final words is I think I'm very, very passionate about infographics, and I've been going deeper into it for a long time. And when me and Blaze connected up in Kenya, I think it was a match made in heaven. He had the skills more than me, way more than me, and it was something which I think I thought it's something which we need to grow a data aware generation, and it's something which I think all civil society organizations should be interested in, to virtualize their data, because one of the things is that a lot of civil society organizations have a lot of data, but that data is stuck in their reports. There are 40 pages, 100 pages reports. It's stuck, and few citizens will pick up that report to read it and to actually understand what that civil society has been trying to do. But I think if we, if we can bring out that data, give it to the citizens in a way to do, in a way which they can easily digest it, I think we'll be able to have a lot of accountability. And it's also timely because there's a lot of movement or revolution, if I would call it, in the country. But it would be good, I think, for that movement and revolution to be based on accurate information, to not just be a feeling because I feel like it movement, but because the numbers say so, and because we need this. We are rising up because of this. We have seen this. We have reports of this. So we need as well to move, I think, with data and with information and with facts, rather than moving on feelings. So I think that's what we were trying to do with Tipende as well, to sort of train you guys and more, so that you can be able to interpret this data, produce these infographics, and produce them and showcase them to the rest of the citizens in Zambia. We hope to continue to do more. The website will be on, so if any of you will be interested to continue doing infographics, the platform will be available to publish all your infographics. So you can continue tuning your skills, and then we'll be able to publish your infographics, and will be available for mentorship as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. We are coming to an end of the program. We thank Hivos, ACA, Alliance for Community Action, and Orodata Science from Nigeria for making this training and this program possible. It has been me, Silas Kafunda. See you next time.
Amayanga nifunza ni chani chinivuta kumtima Atate yanga anifusa ni chani chinivuta kumtima. Umoyo wanga wazula mona manda niyopa kukamba. Nimbe